In 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast. Actually, it's our first podcast. It's untitled as of right now. I'm David Clare.
Brandon Thomas.
Benjamin Weir. Like in the bank.
So this podcast we'll be talking about like entertainment news, culture, and all that jolly good stuff. So we're gonna start off getting into the news.
Welcome to the news.
And so, over the past couple weeks, we've been doing this show bi-weekly. So, Star Wars announced a new live-action TV film show for their streaming service coming out in 2019 called The Mandalorian. It's written and executive produced by Jon Favreau, and he did stuff like Iron Man, Jungle Book, etc.
Really bad movies, honestly.
Yeah.
Iron Man, you remember that movie?
Remember Iron Man,
Yeah.
like the one where...
Going back, it's not like Iron Man's not like... It's not great, but it's like it's
Oh
pretty
my
good. It's
God.
like it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like evaluating it next to like...
another week.
We're gonna wait. We'll debate about that later. But so the first episode of Mandalorian is being directed by Dave Filoni, and he's basically was the apprentice to George Lucas. Just saying. He directed all the Clone Wars TV series under George Lucas's wing, and so finally we're getting him in to do some live action stuff, which you should have been doing from the beginning. Just saying. So the description of The Mandalorian is, after the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges into the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. We follow the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic.
Han Solo.
It's basically like the Han Solo universe expanded. It says, IMDb says it's going to be taking place 7 years after Return of the Jedi. Is that actually going to happen? We do not know. Most likely, I can see that happening. And they did release an image, so here's that to YouTube folk. So yeah. In other news, it's a couple weeks old, or about 2 weeks old, but Netflix acquired the Witcher series, which is a fantasy series that's extremely popular in Poland. It's a very popular video game series for people in America, but beforehand it was written by Andrzej Sapkowski.
Kick Butowski.
Oh, nice. Nice Disney XD reference for like... For everyone between the ages of 15 and 20, like, who watched Disney XD Kick Butowski.
Yes, dude.
Oh no. Anyways, so that Netflix has acquired the rights to that, and they've actually casted Henry Cavill, the Superman, as the main character, Geralt of Rivia.
Wait, did you say...
Are these things that you've read?
Yes.
No, like The Witchers. Like, I have no familiarity.
Yeah,
I've
so
never heard of them
okay,
either.
so we're talking about this because one, I really enjoy there's the book series I like, and there's the video game series, and it's actually part of the reason why Henry Cavill is not signing with DC is because there's a big scheduling conflict with when he's filming with going to be filming with Netflix. So stay tuned for the next episode. We'll be talking a little bit more about that.
Well, I thought at first they were gonna hire Dean Cain, but then they wanted a different
Wait,
Superman.
no, they
That's
were
what I
not. They were
just
never
thought.
going to hire Dean Cain.
No, they were talking about hiring Michael B. Jordan for Superman.
What?
What?
Yeah, like to replace him. But
I mean...
Wait, like in the same universe though? So
Something
would they
like
like
that.
kill off Superman and then bring like...
well, they
Well,
don't, I don't
I
know.
mean, the
I
Flash...
don't know. How do you do
Does
that?
the Flash movie come out like 2019? Right?
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Flashpoint?
so... Yeah, is it
Flashpoint's
going to be a
coming out soon.
Flashpoint movie? Okay,
It's
so
called
like,
I think it's called Flashpoint.
once you, at the point that you introduce the Flash, you can do whatever you want with any character. You can change things
So
up.
true.
That's
You know,
Have you seen
at
the
the
show?
point where like they have the Flash in Justice League, and then they're gonna have a Flash movie, and like seriously, they can if they're like, you know what, we just don't like anything we've done. We tried to rush this whole thing. They can just say like, all right, go back and
We're
change it
turning it all
all.
around.
Honestly,
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, you should do that. Listen up.
No, I
Oh,
mean X-Men
no.
did that.
Yeah, I know.
That's
X-Men
true.
did
Did
that.
it
like
work?
rebooted theirs. Yeah.
Did it work though?
They got
Days of
Deadpool
Future
out
Past
of
was
it.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deadpool. I
Like
guess you're right.
Like,
I mean, people enjoy Deadpool. So.
now Disney
Yeah.
owns X-Men, so, oh yeah.
Yeah, Deadpool 3, it's gonna be PG.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh no. But yeah, so in the same vein of the Witcher series, continuing that, right now the author is actually suing CD Projekt Red, who owns part of the entertainment rights for that for $16 million in royalties because they're making bank now because it got really popular the past couple years, especially now that Netflix series is coming out. That's the author's fault. He did not write a royalty clause in the thing, just sold it for amount of money. Plus, he's making a ton of revenue from his books. So, there's that. So, also, in the same vein of Netflix has now acquired the rights to...
Chronicles of Narnia. Yes. So, Chronicles of Narnia, famously written by C.S. Lewis, was just in a deal with C.S. Lewis Company, Netflix and C.S. Lewis Company, came together to develop a TV series and films. The last films that they have produced have been The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 2005, Prince Caspian in 2008, and then also Voyage of the Dawn Treader in 2010. That means it has been 8 years since they have even made a Chronicles of Narnia movie. So,
I mean, have you all read all of the Chronicles of Narnia books?
2 of them, I think.
Okay, which two?
I read the obviously Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and then I also read Magician's Nephew. And I was gonna read them in
the order of like the story rather than in the order of.
No, I was gonna read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe because it's the original, and then read the rest in order.
Right.
So
I guess if you're trying to think of what movie would come next, then the next one. So the full series would be Magician's Nephew. This would be in order of the story, right? Magician's Nephew basically being like creation story.
Yeah, it's
parallelism.
the very first one.
Yeah, like original sin would be like a major tenet of that. So it would be Magician's Nephew, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Horse and His Boy, which is probably my favorite actually. Like
even though it's like a side story.
Even it really like doesn't matter. It just takes place during like
I've read half
period
of time
where did you read that?
I read half of it. Yeah.
And so that would be really cool. I think it actually has like, if they're going for the vein of like diversity and like what are like like if one of the more important questions would be what are Christians supposed to do like when we have like pressure like almost directed towards like over representing diversity sometimes. You know, so what's a Christian supposed to do in like an age where you actually want to be like inclusive, but you also like there's like, pushing things, and then there's like, like, hey, why are you not doing this? Or like recasting characters in ways that don't make sense.
Yeah.
And then there would be Silverchair would be the next logical one if they're just going in the order of like the main 5, right? Yeah. So, I don't know how that one would go over though. If you're familiar with the Silverchair one, okay. So as Prince Caspian's old, and like they have to go find like I think it's his son or his grandson, and and the only recurring character is Eustace from Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and they still keep Lucy from the original.
Really?
Yeah, but
I thought she was too old.
No, it's her last thing. I'm fairly sure because Edmund can't go, Peter can't go, Susan can't go. Yeah. So it's like Eustace, a girl from school, and Lucy being like 15 or 16.
I feel like what they're trying to do here, because I think it's Hulu that just acquired Lord of the Rings, correct? Or no?
I'd wager, yeah.
I think it's Hulu that just acquired Lord of the Rings, and they are saying that obviously there's like no more books, there's only those 4, and so they're trying to make more stories based off of Lord of the Rings in the same like atmosphere and setting of it, but it's not going to be like canon books just being adapted. So I think that's kind of the same thing that they would go through here. Is like maybe it wouldn't be necessarily the exact book if it's not a film like a TV series. They would kind of just follow along, like maybe they do something kind of like The Horse and His Boy, because I would like to see that. Like,
I think that would be great.
That like Susan and Edmund and all of them are on the throne, and they are older, like they would be older, so they could show them even, because they don't have to have the original cast from it. Exactly. So they could be in it and just have these other side characters that you're following along a journey. I think that'd be really cool to do. But it kind of ties into the topic of discussion that we are having for today.
What did you say we're doing today, Johnny? We're having a topic of discussion today, so buckle up.
Which is about Netflix acquiring fantasy-based shows and films similar to Game of Thrones. And yeah, you can take over.
Okay, so in the same vein, a lot of, especially like you just mentioned, Hulu's. We're not that sure about it, but pretty positive that Hulu is acquiring Lord of the Rings. So a lot of production companies right now, especially like Netflix, are acquiring different intellectual properties that are fantasy based. So recently, the only recent fantasy besides Hobbit that has sold really well is like Game of Thrones. And so a lot of these Netflix and Disney and all them hoopla, they're like gathering a bunch of like fantasy-based project, and it products intellectual assets, and it actually seems like they're predicting that fantasy is going to be the next genre, like big genre. So, for example, a little context: we kind of had like a sci-fi like phase from like early 2000s up to about 2008, 2010.
I would say even before that, like with Alien.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
Honestly,
I feel
you
like
could
a
say
lot.
like Star Wars started it, and it
Yeah.
kind of has just been going up all the way to like the Matrix, and then even to the recent Star Trek in like 2011,
Inception.
the first one.
Yeah.
But in 2008, now we're having this big superhero genre that started with Iron Man.
Will it ever end?
I know. That's the question. Will it ever end? I hope so.
Well, 'cause that's the thing. Like,
really?
like superheroes have been around since like, I mean, there was the Batman original TV show, and then the Batman with Michael Keaton. But
Right.
I agree.
It
Like
hasn't
it like
really-
just like really like started, especially with Marvel
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
So, like, honestly, superhero films, like, it's been the big genre. There's TV series about it everywhere, and it's just, there's like 3 superhero movies coming out a year, maybe 4. So that's like the big genre. It's what's selling. So I wager that what Netflix is thinking, what Hulu is thinking, is that the next big genre is going to be fantasy, based on the way that like Game of Thrones has sold, and the basic way like historical stuff, new historical shows are selling.
Right, like if you think about The Crown,
Mm-hmm.
right, on Netflix. So Netflix already, which I don't know if y'all saw that. That was great. Like that was
I knew
so
you loved
solid.
it, though.
Oh, it was so good. It was like watching it with mom and dad. You know, it's like one of the only things that I'm like, yeah, like I'm really into this, just like mom would be.
Downton
you know?
Abbey.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
really.
Downton Abbey.
So is the trend, like, I guess my question is the trend fantasy, or is the trend like this idea of royals? Like,
That's true.
because royals has always sold, you know, even like you think about like just the idea of a king and a queen, like throughout history, like
Yeah.
that sells, you know? So like, I don't know
Yeah.
if Game of Thrones and The Crown, which blew up pretty big, right? I had another, Downton Abbey. Right, I don't know if it's it may even just be Britain. It may just be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just British
you know,
shows.
at the point that you have like,
BBC.
BBC. Like I don't know, like are these like Sherlock, you know, Selfridges, like things like this that are like these recurring story arcs, and they're almost like they're not mundane, but they're not necessarily as extravagant as the superhero films, right?
sure.
The Crown is like almost political lifestyle kind of
Yeah.
thing. You know, Selfridges is a department store. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily like having something huge like Game of Thrones, you know, like dragons and like these clan warfare. Although I guess Vikings did well on History Channel. So Vikings, you know, or Nordic is the next
Vikings.
Vikings.
Everything's gonna
No.
be about Vikings now.
Yeah, Nordic culture is the next
That's my
best selling. Yeah, let me just get some Leif
man.
Erikson individual films. You know.
Dirty.
Oh god.
Leif Erikson Day.
Oh, I kind of, I see the fantasy aspect of it, but I kind of feel like culture is like wanting not superhero films, but like unique. How do I describe it? Kind of like, okay, like Planet of the Apes is not like a superhero film, but it's a unique concept that is fantasy oriented, kind of.
Are you talking about the new ones
It's
or
not
the
like magical,
originals?
like the new ones.
Oh.
Like, I feel like that could be more of the trend that is going towards, because I think the superhero films are going to start, like, they should start.
Well,
They're waning.
dying.
Marvel.
think-
I mean, Marvel is almost signaling like the decline
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Because
like
af-
here's the end of what we've been doing,
Yeah.
and like we'll try and do something else. Who knows what that'll look
But
like?
I feel like it's kind of going more towards, like, realism, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's, like, these extravagant superheroes and stuff like that, and, like, DC loves doing this, like, fighting back and forth between, like, otherworldly creatures on Earth. I mean, Marvel's doing a lot now, too. But, like, if you look at the original Iron Man, it was, like...
it's technology.
It's just the two of them against each other fighting. And so I feel like it's going to be the end of kind of like the like Guardians of the Galaxy, like Alien. I don't know. That's the way that I see it going, is like that kind of dropping off and more so being like realistic to like, I don't know, maybe more like towards Peter Parker and Spider-Man being a high schooler. Like
Yeah.
simple stories where he's fighting a villain that does seem like there is something that's big that's going to happen,
Yeah.
but it's just more realistic.
Honestly,
to
people
our
want
lives.
characters that they can relate to.
Exactly.
And superheroes, as great as they are, I think people want to be able to relate to characters more. So the next topic of discussion is going back to Chronicles of Narnia in the same vein that we were wondering, will Chronicles of Narnia be produced as C.S. Lewis would have liked it to be produced? Will it be true to the content? Because Chronicles of Narnia, they are planning to make not just films, but also TV series. So what is that going to look like? Is it going to cover all of the Narnia Chronicles? I don't know. Ben, you're the expert. Take it away. What's
I'm the expert. Wow.
I have read all the books, so I know everything.
Yeah.
But like
okay.
what?
Yeah, so
what's
I
your
mean,
opinion?
I guess I have two. I'm confused by the meaning. So as C.S. Lewis would have wanted, like, are we saying stylistic or are we saying in meaning? Like, stylistically, they could change a lot of things, right? If we think of Prince Caspian, right? So, I mean, there's two ways that you could diverge from what C.S. Lewis would have wanted. Prince Caspian, the book, is like so like. It's not linear. It's like, here's this section, and here's this, and then here's how this happened, and here's how we got to this point, you know? Whereas the movie is told, like, in a straight line. You know, I think Prince Caspian was the one book I read at the end. Like, I read all of them, and then read Prince Caspian, because I had already seen the movie. And so by the time I'd gone from Magician's Nephew all the way through the last battle, which I don't think they'll ever turn into a film. I mean, they can, I guess.
We'll see.
It's too controversial, maybe.
Give it 50 years.
And then I went back and read Prince Caspian, and like knowing how the story goes, like trying to read it, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I'm like, I remember this. This is in the end of the movie, you know? And like even like things like if you remember the movie where they like storm the castle, you know, and they've got like the Minotaur, and he's like lifting up the gate, you know. So that like that happens in the movie, like that's a climax almost. Whereas in the book, it's more of like a it's almost like they tell the story, and then like Prince Caspian and Prince Caspian and Peter meet up, and then Prince Caspian's like, and this is how we did this, you know, and that's when you have the story of like storming the castle. So like, it doesn't make sense when you try and read it. So C.S. Lewis, I don't know how he would have wanted it. I imagine. I wish I could just ask him. I don't know how he would have wanted that. That was just kind of like maybe tricky if you're trying to like keep them together. And in terms of meaning, I don't know how much of C.S. Lewis's meaning you're going to be able to pull into like these films, because at one level you have an allegorical story, and like you're gonna if you're telling a parable, right? I mean, that's really what the allegory is. It's a parable. So if you're trying to tell that, then like you're not going to lose a lot of the meaning when you like skip some details. I don't think that obviously in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, there's like a lot in there, but the main story is the story of like the redemption, right? It's like Aslan dying and then being able to save them, right? So that's the allegorical meaning. But then you have like individual details. So if you think of, I think we talked about this yesterday actually, in Prince Caspian, Lucy's like chasing Aslan in like this dream land, and she's like, why, you know, saying to Aslan, like, you know, why haven't you come yet? I thought you were gonna come. And he's like, well, things never happen the same way twice. So that's like a line that they put in there, but I wonder how many lines they actually skip over, you know. So they're gonna have, I think they're gonna be true to C.S. Lewis in the overall scope of the film, but are they gonna like, how do you determine which things make it into a 2.5-hour movie? Oh no, not 2.5, please. I'm telling you, ceiling. I'm telling you, this is how much you got, you know? But like, I mean, if it's Netflix, they can make it as long as they want, I guess.
Yeah, because you could make it a TV series, but I don't know if that's what they want. I feel like what they might do is they might use the world for the TV series, but they're not gonna, they're gonna be completely away from the timeline of the books.
I'm just,
if that's possible.
If they did make a series, like they are making a series, like it's pretty obvious, I feel like, that they would make a series about it. They could just do like a Netflix film, but I feel like that would not get as much money. Or but basically, I'm wondering how they're gonna do like the horses that are, what are they called? The fawns, or like fawns.
The fawns.
Like how are they gonna?
Yeah.
Are they? I don't know. I'm wondering.
Are they gonna CGI it, or are they gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you asking?
I'm just wondering
if they're
about
gonna CGI,
like,
or if they're gonna do
like
costumes?
how they're gonna make all that stuff, and like how they're gonna make the world so real. Like, are they gonna do kind of the Lord of the Rings thing where they filmed actual in locations and it made it look like stunning? But I feel like that would be a lot of money. But Netflix has a lot of money, so I'm just interested to see how they're gonna do it and their take on it. If it's gonna be like this grand scale, or they're gonna like make it like The Horse and His Boy, a smaller story.
Right. That really would be the best one for a TV series out of all the ones I can think of.
Yeah. Just do The Last Battle. That's it.
Last Battle. I honestly don't think Last Battle will ever like. I don't think we'll ever see that like on any screen. Really.
Yeah.
It's just too. It's not. If you really want to like start sitting there with like Revelation and like comparing to The Last Battle, and you're like, it's like a different translation of the Bible or something, and you're underlining. You're like, what does C.S. Lewis mean when he writes this?
Oh, this was a concordance.
I thought this was a concordance. But you know, so like, I don't think we'll ever see that. As far as movie, I'd say Silverchair is more of a movie. Magician's Nephew, I would almost
like that
lean.
book.
I would lean that towards a movie, really.
I could see that.
But I would
making
say
that movie,
Horse and His
honestly.
Boy. If you want to make that like, if you're gonna experiment with a television show,
Yeah.
do that. Like, definitely do not reproduce Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
The original version is like really solid, and there's not much to like
For sure.
even want to redo.
Yeah.
Prince Caspian. Honestly, the film, like I talked about, like the linear aspect of it. Like, it's a good like watch through, and it
Yeah.
gives you like. As long as you don't try and like read it, you know, God forbid you read a book. But and then Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Voyage of the Dawn Treader was like, I think I read that one. I want to say I read that in 3rd grade, and as I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm like, he turns into a dragon, you know, and then Eustace turns into a dragon, yeah. But then when you come to the film, you kind of lose. Like, here's the problem with any book turn into a movie is you lose the inner dialogue of a character, especially when that book is written in 3rd person, so you can actually kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, where you get to like get in their headspace a little bit, you know, where you can swap around. And so I think in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, you don't really like, you don't understand the internal struggle of Eustace. It's just more of like a, like, yeah, he's kind of a jerk, and he turns into like a dragon, and he like realizes that like wealth and like all the, and like greed and all these other things like don't really matter to him.
I think they kind of minimize it too. Like you were saying about Prince Caspian not being told the way that the book is because kids are watching it, and like kids are gonna be like, but I thought they already stormed the castle and now he's meeting. Like, it just like seems reversed to them.
Yeah.
But as far as like Netflix doing it, I'm also wondering what's the level that they're gonna take it to. Like, kind of
Scale and
kind of like how they did the Bible series. Mark Burnett and Roma Downey did the Bible series recently, and people like were confused about the violence. I heard a lot of like some backlash about that. And then, like, if you look at the Bible, it like does have scenes or like moments where like I think it's Abraham going to save Lot, and he's destroying people to like go and save, like, the warriors going in to save Lot and all that kind of stuff, and how realistic they're going to do that. And like, since Netflix is trying to have a fantasy series kind of thing, are they going to make it more Game of Thrones-esque and like try to make it darker and not as children-like? I don't know. So that's one of the questions I have. But I think as far as Christian aspect, that's to be seen if they're going to keep a lot of the lines like Ben was saying in there.
All right. Well, we're moving on to the next thing.
Versus.
We're going to a Versus series, and this is going to be the most hostile environment out of all this, because everyone wants a dub, and I know I'm going to get it, no matter how many times you refute it.
I thought you were moderating or something.
Okay. Well, no, but that'll be for later. But
Okay.
So our Versus series topic is, what is the best underrated Star Wars film? Brandon, take it away.
Oh, I'm going first.
Preemptively rolling my eyes at this entire segment.
Man.
Oh no.
So I'm between choosing two of them. Since we talked beforehand about Rogue One a little bit, and Ben, I think, was saying that a lot of people do like Rogue One. So since he said that, I will go for Episode 1, the best underrated Star Wars film for me. Part of it is, I will be honest, is nostalgia, because it's like the first one that I saw. For some reason at my house, we had Star Wars Episode 1, 4, and 5. Literally the most random ones, but we had those, and so I would watch them, and I didn't understand what was happening, but I watched them. So I remember watching the first one and thinking, like, Qui-Gon Jinn, first and foremost, I thought was boss. I don't think anyone can argue that Qui-Gon Jinn was a bad character, and Liam Neeson did a really good job. So
He's a bad character?
No one argues that he is a bad
Oh,
character.
yeah, no one says he's bad. Yeah,
he's a
he was
good character, for sure. And I actually liked, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, the fight scene at the end with Darth Maul, everybody's going to agree, like, that was pretty cool, too. So, as far as, like, the midichlorians, I guess we could do without that, but I think that that's like a smaller portion of the movie compared to the grand scheme of it, and also having pod racing in there, I thought that was really cool. And it gives
pod racing.
I thought it was cool because it kind of gives more backstory to Anakin, and whenever he's in later movies, and I know he would have more training about flying. I don't even know what to call him right now, but basically, flying whatever he's flying.
In the same movie, whatever the yellow.
Yeah, it gives understanding as to why he's able to fly in Episode 1 again, and then in Episode 2 and 3, he's like pretty good at being a pilot. Like honestly. And so it kind of gives more backstory to him of why he is good at that. The whole story about him being sold and how he was like, just there was no father, like that was kind of cool. I think the whole midichlorians thing about that and like how he came about, that it does get kind of iffy. But I think that it is very underrated because people are thinking about Jar Jar Binks and all of the stuff that deals with him. And in reality, I think that George Lucas would have done a better job with Jar Jar Binks' character if he would have done what he originally was planning with episode 2 of Jar Jar Binks being a Sith Lord.
Oh my gosh.
It is.
He
I
was not.
have. I'm
What are you
throwing my
talking
vote
about?
with him.
That
Yes!
was part of his original script.
No,
was
it
that
was
Jar Jar
not.
Binks was going to be in episode 2
As
more
a
than
Sith
he
Lord?
was,
As
and
a
he was
Sith
going to
Lord?
be. I don't know if he was a Sith Lord, but he was going to be.
He would have been more of a
actually traitor.
political
Oh
like,
my
asset.
gosh!
He would have been a
I
separatist.
really didn't know this.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
that was just like the Reddit thing of
No,
like.
he would have been like a separatist. Like there's behind the scenes like
Why?
scripts, ideas. He didn't follow through with it, and especially if you like watch the documentaries, he talks about like how he got so much hate with episode 1 to where he's like, I need to pull back on this and insert more of this.
Yeah.
So
And then we got episode 2, and apparently it didn't work. I'm just kidding.
okay, so it's gonna be
Take
my
over,
turn
go
now.
ahead.
I'm taking over.
Can I
The-
tune out
no.
this whole? I don't even want to argue this.
Best underrated Star Wars film, Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Okay, most people are like, no, but let me tell you, no. Because Episode 3 is my favorite Star Wars film, but that can't be underrated. It's amazing.
We can't do 3, 5, or 6 because those are too good.
3, 5, and 6 are out. They're just amazing. Even 4 for some people, but you know, some people debate like Brandon, so that's why it's not in our list of amazing films. Episode 2. Like, tell me what's wrong with it.
I told you. Are you asking me right now?
Go to bed. Okay. All right.
All of Anakin's flirting.
Let me just levitate
No,
this
no.
pear-shaped fruit.
Okay.
Anakin.
Okay. Let me just give my points. All right. Just start off with the plot. There's an assassination plot against Padme, a senator, who is like basically trying to promote peace the whole time. So there's a lot of it's a lot of politics. There's a lot of context going on where people want to like eliminate people who are going to try to promote peace, so there is no peace, so that people can profit from war. So there's that whole aspect. The whole assassination plot was actually probably some of the better. Was actually a really big part of the episode 2 that everyone forgets about. So that leads to the whole bounty hunter. Like we get Camino from that. We get the Coruscant Undercity from that, which is amazing. Go to Brad.
I agree with that.
I think it's like you get the whole. I really think that's like a really big
What
part.
was the
Like
memorable part of the Undercity?
death sticks. No, I'm just kidding.
Just making
But-
jokes.
No, if you watch the Clone Wars, it's all about like the bounty hunter crime, like high crime, high politics type thing. How they're kind of meshing
Yeah.
it.
So in the movie, like
In the
explain
mo-
to me what like
in the
Undercity
movie,
part-
it
it was just like
added-
a dive bar
in the movie, it added a complete like
with
whole new
Dexter, where he's
side of
like,
Star
"Whoa,
Wars."
what do you know?
They added a whole new side of Star Wars. We were out in the Outer Rim for 4, 5, and 6. And even in episode 1, you had the high tier stuff, which added some, but you didn't get the nitty gritty stuff like you get in episode 5. You get the gritty stuff in episode 2. But it's like you get the gritty side of the new metropolitan vibe. So I think that part, I think Camino's amazing. Like clones,
That
bro.
was great.
That was,
Yeah. I don't think any of us are debating that.
and I
That's
think
my favorite part of like maybe all prequels.
so. But
Oh, fight scene in 3. Oh, sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
in continuation of the assassination plot, we know that Padme and Anakin have to go away, okay? Now, before you go on like, oh no, it's corny, let me tell you, love is corny, okay? Everyone knows this. Everyone knows this. Okay, so, for example, the number one line that everyone's like, says it's trash is, I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and it gets everywhere. Well, here's the thing. Anakin, it's all about
analyze.
character. This is the whole thing about episode 2. It's all about character.
Yeah.
It's all about
That
how he's
reveals his
transforming.
character like crazy.
I will get you there. Okay, it all goes from. What have you done? So it all is about character and how Anakin transitions into basically Vader, and we get the first glimpse of it. So it's like, I don't like sand is really like his talking about his past, and he's like looking to Padme as if like she is his only hope type thing. Like, I don't like sand is saying, I don't like my past, but you're my future. That is basically what it is.
4 words can tell you everything about Anakin you've ever wanted to know.
I don't like
One of them being I, another one being a contraction, and one of them being essentially ocean dirt.
Okay, Continuing with that, we get I think one of the best films in all of Star Wars, not just the prequels. We get the Tusken Raiders. Anakin goes in the Tusken Raiders, and he's. I mean, that's one of these.
No, that was really good. Like,
It
I'm not
literally,
disputing
that whole
See, after,
context.
though,
What?
why does she stick around with him? What
No, that
Jedi
doesn't make any
mind trick is he
sense.
doing to her, you know?
Yeah,
I
he's
don't
like,
get
I
why.
slaughtered them all.
Because,
Love me.
but is that not why she would stick around? Anyways,
Because he slaughtered. Oh, she's afraid. But she doesn't show
No,
me.
he's saying an act of dominance. You know, he's like, I slaughtered them
he's
all.
hot. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I
Okay.
into
Oh my
that.
gosh,
but
Anakin.
then, honestly, even if you don't like that part, you go straight from Tusken Raiders. You have Obi-Wan who gets you get the whole separatist politics, which I think is a great part of it, and you get the Coruscant politics, which is all centered around Palpatine accumulating his power, which is basically when you look back at yeah, the whole balls that the Senate give immediate emergency powers to the Supreme Chancellor. But it all kind of goes back to how like our own, like, it's kind of like mirrors how, like, America, like, our tenets is like those who sacrifice freedom for security deserve neither. Quote Benjamin Franklin. So it was a lot of like that kind of aspect. And to end it off, the gladiator stuff, it was dope. You can't go wrong with that.
Do I get a chance to like answer this?
No, you do that after you go around and trash people, but it's gotta be quick and concise. So, your turn to like say what is the best underrated film.
Okay, so here we go. It's the best underrated film. Obviously, I am rating 1 and 2 very low, and I don't think they're good. So I am one of the people underrating these. Okay, but this is more like, I guess it's targeted at Brandon. Solo is the most underrated film. Okay, so I looked up like the Rotten Tomato scores of these, right? Or at least of some of them. Okay. I didn't know you were gonna say number 1. I thought you would say something like Rogue One because you.
No, we had talked about it.
Okay, so just to tell you, Episode 4 has a 93%. Episode 2 has a 66%. Solo has a 70. Are you telling me that Solo is like, so critic score, right? This is critic score, not audience score. Critic score is that Solo is only 4% better than Episode 2. Do you think so? Well, hold on, let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I think it's okay. Yeah, my bad. I was like asking for the. Okay, here's why. Look, I'm not gonna say Solo was like. I like most of the Star Wars films. I really don't like Episode 2. Episode 2 is my least favorite. But so Solo, if we're gonna evaluate it, like, okay, Han Solo origin story without Harrison Ford. So like, already you're not expecting like the blow-away performance because he's really just pretending to be Harrison Ford, right? Or that's if you want him to pretend to be Harrison Ford, you can do that. If you want to see him like actually be an actor, then like he can make his own performance of the character. Like, there's plenty of impressionists in like Las Vegas who could probably do a better Harrison Ford impression than what was his name?
Ansel
Abramovich or something.
Alden Ehrenreich.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of it. I kind of thought that was the name.
I am Zlatan and I am perfect in every way.
Zlatan. Yeah. Anyway, but so like, so the people that kind of went after him like on the acting, honestly, like at the beginning of the movie, you're like, this is strange. This isn't Harrison Ford. By like, I don't know, a third of the movie in, I'm like, I didn't
care, honestly.
Yeah.
That's not the problem I have.
That's not your problem. Okay, as far as character development, which is Brandon's like main thing where he's like, this is so bad. Like, it's not though, right? Like, okay, honestly, going into the movie, I didn't know that they were even talking about doing like 3 Han Solo stories.
I didn't either.
Right? I did not know that. In my mind, I saw this and knew that they were thinking about an Obi-Wan movie, maybe, right? And then the Boba Fett movie being like more like concrete, right? And so in my head, like, are we doing spoiler here? I don't know.
Splurge.
Splurge. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's been out for 4 months.
While
so
I don't like spoilers.
yeah, yeah, goose dice.
Spoilers.
But so when it comes to Solo, like, if you've seen it, then the end of the movie has Darth Maul in it, right? And not a lot of resolution as to like what he's doing. Like, you're just like, okay, we knew he was alive if you've kept up with like Rebels or Clone Wars or something. Mm-hmm. So you know he's alive, like if you're like really paying attention. You know, if you're not, then it was like, huh? Yeah, you.
That's so true. That's how I found out he was
alive. If you're not paying attention, then you're like, oh, this is super cool. Like, Darth Maul's still alive? What? Like, I didn't know that, right? So I think that's like a good tag. And honestly, I thought this was, if I could choose, and this is the way I imagined it as I watched the movie, I'm like, they have these solo, like, or not solo movies, they have these Star Wars stories, right, that don't really, they connect into the other ones, but they're not really, like, formatted linearly to 1 through 9.
Rogue
right?
One flowed right into
Rogue
it.
One is, Solo doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Right, so Rogue One did, Solo doesn't. So in my head, I thought, what if they did like this 3-part series, right? So they have Solo, and they have like Boba Fett was next, most likely, and then they had Obi-Wan, and like so through that, you don't necessarily have like the story of here's Han Solo, and he connects to Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, because he's not going to connect to Obi-Wan. You know, we saw their introduction in Episode 4.
Yeah.
But if Darth Maul or Kira is this character that winds up streaming across all 3 movies, I thought that would be more interesting to me, because you have it focused on Han Solo and you have it focused on Boba Fett, right? And so they're the main character, but then you also have like this subplot really which is carrying through the 3. It would be like in The Hobbit when you have like so you've got Bilbo through like all 3, but like when they remade it, and then you have Gandalf going off to like whatever with the Necromancer, you know. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't really remember.
Okay. Anyway, so they have like the subplot like of all 3, which I mean, kind of tied into the like original movies. So that, in my mind, that is still what I would like. I mean, I know that they kind of reevaluated everything.
Yeah.
But what I wanted was like, okay, here's Kira, who was like, she has a reputation as not being like a good actress, but like I thought it was okay. Yeah, she does I think she's Game of Thrones star.
She was.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And so she has a reputation
like
of not being good.
You, she was good.
Yeah. Oh, was she in that?
Yeah, she was.
I didn't realize that.
I think she was really good in that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but so that's what I wanted, was like almost like here we have this story which continues across all 3, and even if like you don't go to see Kira, you know, you would go to see Darth Maul, but you don't go to see Kira, but you would go to see like Obi-Wan, you know? And so if you have this thread, like, okay, why are they doing all these movies? Well, you have the thread going across. Yeah. That's what I wanted.
I want to know about the movie, though. You talked about this thread.
I'm talking about the vision of it. The vision of the movie to me
doesn't matter, though, because people had vision for the for episode 8.
Okay,
here's episode 8 didn't pan
stylistically
out.
amazing. Han Solo, like, I thought he was pretty cool. Character development, I think it's there. I think he's innocent, pretty much. I mean, innocent as you can be being like a street rat, you know. And he actually has to like work, like he wants to get back. I don't even remember the name of the planet anymore, but he wants to get back there to get Kira. You know, like Scarif was so memorable. He wants to get back to get Kira, and so that's like his goal. And then he winds up like finding her like as he's trying to get back there. And so like you see his motivation, like, I don't know, like he doesn't like continue on with like this idea of trying to get back there, because once he finds her, then it doesn't really matter.
No, but
so he doesn't have a singular focus the whole movie. I don't have a problem with that.
What is his purpose after he finds her?
After he finds her, he's just trying not to die, you know?
I don't think that's why, because she said that you can leave, and he said, no, I'm in this. And so like he's in the life partially because of her, and he like wants to get her back.
Okay.
So I do understand that, but I guess we're going into the debating part.
Okay. You should start trashing. You start trashing people.
Are you going to sit out of this?
Well, no. We're all going to start trashing
Okay.
people, but just make it like a minute per person.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep
Like,
going after me if you're on that train of thought.
So yeah, what's
So
wrong
start
with
with Solo.
Ben's choice, and then bullet points.
Okay. So I don't like Solo because I don't think there's much character development, because Han Solo at the very beginning, he's driving the little craft thing that he has, and then at the end, I could still see him doing the exact same thing, and he doesn't care. You always say he shot first, which I do agree that does show some character development, but most of the thing, I feel like he is the exact same person that he was before, because like the whole point of movies is a character goes through something and now he's changed and he lives in a new normal. So where is that to me? The conclusion with Kira, I feel like there's no conclusion there. So if they would have made 3 movies, I feel like I would enjoy this movie more. It's kind of the way I felt after leaving 7, that I won't know how good 7 and 8 are until I've seen like 9, like the way that it all threads through, because it's made as a trilogy. So for Solo, I feel like it wasn't resolved to me. I thought there were unnecessary characters as well, like Woody Harrelson's wife, kind of unnecessary to me, and then having Infus Nest being a girl, didn't really feel like that was like a major plot twist with like the era that we live in.
Yeah,
now.
they pretended like it was a big plot thing.
I was like, I don't understand.
I
like,
totally
it's
thought
okay.
it was his daughter
Like,
the first watching,
exactly.
and I thought it was like, oh, if it's his daughter, that's like crazy.
Exactly.
But then it was just like, then I ended up finding out it wasn't
I'm
the
just
second
a young
time I
girl.
watched it. And I was like, oh.
Exactly. So it's like, it felt like there was no, I don't know, like I just didn't feel satisfied coming out of it. And then as far as like I would say last, like the Kessel Run, I couldn't remember that for a second. I felt like that could have been done better as well. And the robot, 2. I think that
Okay.
Donald Glover being in it was amazing. He did a great job, honestly. But I think there were little things that could have been done better, and there was like too much of that and too little character development for me to enjoy it.
Okay, trash on my episode 2.
Oh, I'm touching on yours now.
Try
so
it.
For episode 2, I think it's mainly just whenever I watched it again, like 2 summers ago, I felt like it was just like so long and there was nothing happening. Like it felt like there was Obi-Wan was doing his thing, and I'm forgetting what was Obi-Wan doing in episode 2.
He was from Camino to Geonosis, and he was just like uncovering
That
the
was the
droid
robot?
factory.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
droids. Okay, so that part I did enjoy, and I remember playing that in Lego Star Wars, and I always liked that part. But
Great.
honestly,
Lego Star Wars gives you a great bullet point of the plot.
It really does.
No dialogue.
so true.
Which really is a big problem with the prequels, is the dialogue.
So they should have just made it as a silent film.
Yeah. With like the painted smile or painted frown, you know?
But yeah, so I didn't really I felt like the Obi-Wan thing was pretty cool. But as far as Anakin and Padme, I was like, what is happening? There's like literally no point to it. And yeah, so like all the way up until the Colosseum fight that happened, I just kind of like wasn't interested in the plot at all. And I think that that's kind of the problem that can go in movies. And I was actually talking about this the other day, like you should show what's happening rather than telling it. So like if the dialogue is revealing everything that you need to know about the movie, then it makes it boring because the audience just wants to watch it unfold in a way. So that's the thing that I had a problem with too was like there's a beginning which you agreed the assassination thing was pretty cool and like that whole reason why, but then there's just like this dead space to me where like nothing really happens. They're just flirting and it's awkward and it's weird.
They
and
go
I
to
don't like
Naboo
it.
and then they go to Tatooine and then they like go to Geonosis.
Yeah. So it was just kind of strangely put in there. But then after that, actually, okay, whenever they go to the droid factory and then on, I think it's a pretty decent movie.
Okay. My favorite part is when C-3PO's head gets put on the droid, and he's just like, and you just get to hear like the dialogue of, "Oh no,
Die Jedi dogs.
oh yeah, that's right."
All right, I'm gonna start trashing first. Okay, episode 1. I think episode 1. Honestly, personally, I like episode 1, but it's not gonna be the greatest superior because. What effect does that have? Like, okay, we get to see Anakin's origins, but do we get to see we get to see Obi-Wan's character development, we get to see Qui-Gon, but like, grand scheme of the Star Wars universe, what has happened? Nothing. So, as much as I like, individually, I like Star Wars, but if you're putting it like in a greater context, no.
The prequels are an origin story.
Yeah, but
It's like in Rogue One, you don't expect really anything to change when you watch episode 4.
Here's the thing, though. In episode 2, you get to see the ramifications. You get to see Palpatine accumulating power. You get to see Anakin turning into Darth Vader. You get to see him using his skills.
Everything in episode 1 is a change. Because it's like, they seriously fleshed out nothing from before episode 4 until the time of the prequels.
So you just... Okay. Are defending Ben?
I'm
his
defending
choice?
I'm defending your point, maybe.
Okay. Well, I disagree.
That's why we're here.
That was really respectful. It's like,
Well,
I disagree.
But that's kind of the whole thing. It's like, if Star Wars Episode 1 came out by itself before, like, say there were 4, 5, and 6 never came out, like, Star Wars Episode 1 was the first one, would Star Wars have become what it was?
I would say so.
Really? You think it would have gotten as popular?
Okay, tell me why episode 4
I
became
feel
so
like-
popular.
Just think
Tell me why episode 4 became
Because it
popular.
was different.
Because it was different. And because graphics-wise,
Yeah.
it was amazing. So, if we're saying
At the
episode
time.
1, yeah,
It's still amazing.
it's still amazing. So, I mean, episode 1, like, it's different. And how do you compare graphics right now when I watch it? Because they made it like a movie that we would see now. Whereas
Yeah.
episode 4, like, when you watch it, there are, like, these dead dialogue spaces within it where you're kind of like, when they're preparing to go, like, after the Death Star, when they're on Yavin 4, you're kind of like, okay, like, this is dialogue, and this is, like, explanation a little bit, and this is what they're going to do. But it's not necessarily, like, really action-packed. But that's just the way movies kind of work. Like, I trash on, like, the first Star Trek movie where they have like 3 minutes of like showing this big space station, and like as you're watching, you're like, this is not that great, you know?
Yeah.
And so like to me, episode 4 like is like, hey, here's something amazing. And if you were to take episode 1, obviously they couldn't make it with the same capabilities like in
they definitely pushed the capabilities though.
Yeah,
CGI.
they pushed it. Yeah. So I mean.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Would it still be a big deal? I would say so.
I understand what you're saying though as well about like what is the effect of it as much. It is kind of weird, like the age of Anakin and Padme in 2 because of the age that they put in 1. I think the kid could have been possibly older for sure.
Could have been
She
older.
could have been not the queen.
The acting, the acting could have been done better. I agree with that. And Jar Jar is kind of a letdown. I thought he was funny when I was younger, though.
Exactly.
That was
when I was younger, that was like
it was like it was supposed to be for kids.
I don't think my dad allowed me to enjoy him. He's like, yeah, everyone hated this. I'm like, well, I hate it too.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna trash on Solo now. Solo. Okay, the robot. I'm sorry. Its comedy fell short. The only time it did do well was the like rebellion type thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
if you're really looking at satirical context, you could, but it was a little triggering. But so there's that. I think honestly, I didn't like Lando at all. I personally felt like it was just meh.
So was he the impressionist? Was Donald Glover the impressionist of like? Whoever?
I thought Donald Glover was the impressionist, and Alden Ehrenreich actually like made Han Solo his own. That's the best way to put it. I didn't think he did that. I thought he just was more of an impressionist more than anything. That's my opinion of that. Solo, I thought like to underrate it. Like I thought it was a good film, but I at the same time think it's deserving of 70% because it's like not too heavy, not too light. Like that's just really what it was.
Okay.
It was just in the middle. Like
I know what I was gonna say also. I feel like in the same way that you said what happened with episode 1, I feel like nothing happened with Solo. Like to me, there's no major character development. You find out how Han Solo and Chewie came about, but all the other characters are just
that's
random.
true.
And
Millennium
they don't have
Falcon.
to be in there. So it's like the
Millennium Falcon thing
and
was
you know
kind
how
of pointless.
Those are the nostalgia points.
You know how Lando and Han came together, but I kind of wish there was more. Like you were saying,
I wish they kind of gotten in a fight or something.
The thread of Kira throughout all the movies, I was like, it's not called Kira, it's called
That's what
Solo.
I'm saying. No one's gonna go see a Kira movie, but her character was actually interesting and intriguing.
But the point is Solo, and it should be Solo to me. Like you can introduce these other characters, but it's Solo. Like for Rogue One, it's kind of like my thing was how are they going to become Rogue One, and so it shows it, and so I enjoy that. I enjoy the way that they got the disc and all that kind of stuff. But whenever I go to see Solo, like everybody that was with me that came out of it was like I kind of was underwhelmed. Like it wasn't as good as I thought.
Wow. Okay.
So,
well, in defense of that, I do think the character development was actually like fleshed out. I think he became more of Solo than anything. Like you could see it, but I think you only saw the beginning stage of it. I thought you saw part 1, and there's still 2 and 3.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing about
like
the
he's
trilogy.
gotten introduced to.
He got introduced, and I think
he got introduced to his life. Yeah,
yeah, part 1, 2, and 3. But now, Ben, it's your turn to trash on us.
All right. I think I've interrupted y'all enough that y'all already like I've made most of my points. Episode 1, I mean, just
there's nothing wrong with it now, right? Because you know about Jar Jar.
no. Well, I don't know. No. Even though I was like defending it as like I still think it would be like success. I'm not saying it would have been like world shaking like episode 4, but I still think it would have been like a pretty big like box office success and could have like paved the way for like definitely for a trilogy.
Yeah.
Right. Like I definitely think that would have happened. Like it was good enough to me. Part of the draw of the prequels is that it is Anakin, and you don't know anything about Anakin, like except for he's Luke's father, he was a Jedi, he turned evil, he had a redemption arc. That's what you know about Anakin previous to watching Episode 1 if you like grew up through the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
So to me, like to say like could Episode 1 have been popular? Right, like I'd still say yes, but the draw of it is that you already know them. The draw of Solo is that you already know Han Solo. So I don't know if
any of the other characters except for Chewbacca.
Right, and Lando.
Oh yeah, Lando, sorry.
So like to me, like in both of those situations, like I'm going to see this movie knowing that I already know these characters and like how they turn out. Like at the point that Solo comes out, you already know that Han Solo is dead. Sorry. Sorry to whatever percentage of the population hasn't seen Episode 7. But, you know, very little. But, like, you know what I mean? So, like, to me, like, Episode 1...
He's not dead.
Oh, my gosh. Well, he didn't get cut in half like Darth Maul did.
That's what I'm saying. Darth Maul survived.
Yeah, right. So, that's my critique of, like, whether or not episode 1 matters or not. I think it matters. I mean, again, I'm not evaluating it like a standalone film, and I'm not evaluating Solo as a standalone film. I'm evaluating it as like part of the Star Wars universe and something that is, like you're saying, like you wish it had been resolved. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter because Han Solo is resolved. He's dead. Like, I know his story at this point, and all that there is like this whatever year gap. Okay, if I were gonna make a Han Solo movie, I want this one, and then I would like from his point of view, like through the like a Kylo Ren movie. That would be super cool.
That would be pretty
in
dope.
20 years. That's what I want. I want the Kylo Ren origin story starting with him rebelling against Luke. And
really
like,
cool.
oh my gosh, why is that not already in
That
production?
should be a movie.
Why
It's
was
just
that-
because his character's not resolved. We
Why
probably
wasn't
won't
that
get
in
that
episode
until-
7? I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know.
Maybe
as far
episode
as
9 will all just be that.
episode
Honestly,
2,
it could be.
Episode 2.
I know there's not
What do
much
you
else to
say? I feel like all of your points are just already like the
Superior.
No, your points are already the contradiction to the things that I don't like about it. And so, like, all I can really do is say, no, you're wrong. You know? All I can say is, okay, the political thriller aspect of it, like, I do not care. Those who deserve, those who give up freedom for security deserve neither. Okay, awesome. Like, I love that. I would rather see that in, like, a movie about America.
I feel like it added to it, though, because, like, in original Star Wars, there wasn't really the politics. It was just kind of like,
That's
good,
true.
bad, let's fight.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
You're like, what's
there's
the
a
deal with-
reason behind
Well, yeah.
it. More
Well,
so.
in
So I
episode
did like
4,
that
in
aspect
episode
of it.
4, they're like, and then they say something about like the Senate won't stand for this, and Darth Vader's like, so what, you know? So I think between like episode 1 and episode 4, the Senate means nothing because Palpatine is the Senate. So,
I am the Senate.
so I gotta say that. To wrap this up, if I can use more of my time, right? I would just rather say, what do
We
you
have a
think?
minute each.
What is Solo being a 70%? Like, I don't rate that on a scale of like 0 to 100 and like an A of the movie. Like, do you think the movie is like a low B? Like, if you're saying like
I don't know.
like it's not a
Honestly.
C.
I still haven't seen it since we talked about
That's
it, and
true.
that's the thing. I want
So
to see it
Solo,
again.
like, if I were to evaluate Solo, honestly, I would say like I would give it an 80. Like, if I'm saying like, to me, Rotten Tomatoes almost always you push it up 10% because to get 100%, like that's impossible.
Which review did you look at? Like, score. Because there's a critic one and there's an audience one.
This was just like the basic. This is the average. I'm fairly certain. It was like the singular score and
Well,
like
the usual, there's one that's like Rotten Tomato score, that's like audience score, and then there's a critic score.
yeah,
also
whichever
with it.
one it is that comes up right when you look it up. Like sometimes you just type like
I
when
think
you
it might
ask.
be audience score that popped
Yeah.
up then.
Anyway, 70% for that. Episode 2 gets 66. Episode 4 gets 93. That's high. Obviously, that's nostalgic.
It's just yeah.
Rogue
it's
One
because
gets
it was the first
87.
one.
Rogue One, 87. I like Rogue One better than Solo. Solo, I would probably give an 80. Episode 2, I'm fine with 66. Right?
Honestly, I think that David did make good points about like there are good things in episode 2 that people forget about, and same like episode 1 that in like any of the episodes you could make terrible because you focus on different things. Like episode 8, people didn't like it because of Luke Skywalker or Canto Bite. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Canto Bite.
And so it's like we don't like it because of these two things, but it's like no, you're missing the whole premise of it being they're like the Jedi aren't necessarily all good, and the forgetting the name Sith are not all like necessarily bad. Like there are things that you should pull from both sides. The Force isn't just the Jedi's to own. So I think when you break down all the movies into what they should truly be, you can come up with the good that was supposed to be in it, which
Right.
George Lucas
Like-
wanted.
Yeah.
Or whoever
Like I
it
think
was
when you
wanted.
look at the Sith characters from the previous 6, the only one that had any reason to be a Sith is Anakin, right? It's just like out of this fear, right? Whereas like Palpatine, lust for power. Dooku,
Yeah.
lust for power. You know,
I think that's what gives
Darth
1, 2, and 3
Maul
such a
just
good
like
power. It's 'cause it-
aggression. Yeah. And so like in that sense, like when you like, and then you see Anakin kind of like him change, and I think Episode 8 makes you see like Kylo Ren as like, okay, so he's not just like straight up evil. Like there's conflict. And it makes it more. It almost devalues the other Sith to me, really, excluding Darth Vader. Like it devalues Palpatine and Darth Maul and Count Dooku because I'm like I know nothing about their motivation other than they want power or they want whatever. Snoke. Well, who knows anything about Snoke?
We know nothing.
We don't talk about that
All right,
Snoke.
speaking of, all right, basically the way we're going to give a dub out is you have to vote for someone else's film and why you think, like, a good way, but you can't vote for yourself. So, voting for episode 1, I'm gonna vote for it. Oh,
there it is.
Okay, there it is.
There it is. Brandon wins.
Brandon wins. All
I was
right.
like, I don't know who I'm gonna vote for, honestly.
Do I only get to vote for one? Yeah. Who are you? Okay. Who? Just say who you're gonna vote for. Me and David.
Out of our two
I would
arguments.
probably say I want to rewatch Solo before I would say Solo because you guys love it so much. You guys
Yeah,
both agree
that's
on
true.
Solo, but
That's
you don't
true.
agree on 2. So I would say Solo.
Okay. Well, that is the end of this
Gentleman's
podcast.
game.
It is a
Gentleman's
gentleman's game.
Let's
Brand's got the
go.
first dub, but there's many more to go.
We're gonna keep a tally of this across
Yes,
like
we
that.
will be keeping
Okay.
in tally.
I just want to go 0 and like whatever. I never want to win.
Get a tie.
So that is the end of this show. So stay tuned for more content that's coming later, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Like and subscribe.
All right, see ya.